Okay, so at this time I'm proud to introduce our guest speaker for today, and I'm very proud to introduce you to my cousin, Dr. Charles Lebowitz.
Can we turn down the light? Is that
Yeah, sure. We'll get that light there.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Lebowitz. I'm Ted's cousin. This is a copy of my last book. If any of you want to buy it on Amazon, go ahead. I'm board certified in internal medicine, fellow, all that stuff. So I spelled my name with an E, and Ted spells his I-E. How did that happen? Why are our names spelled differently? Well, it starts here. This is where we come from. Our grandparents come, this is Russia, this is Germany, and we come from Romania, which is right here. And our grandparents came over during the Great Immigration in the 1900s. Some of my grandparents come from Kiev, and we come from an area down here. We didn't have last names. They were like, I would be Charles, son of Mendel, or Teddy would be Ted, son of Joseph. There were no last names there. So, came over on the ship, nice accommodations. You can see the guys all wearing hats. And this is not like the Titanic where Rose was sitting. Got online. These are all their possessions. Everything they had. Then they came in, and the one thing that they were scared of here is letting the guys see them cough, because if they had tuberculosis, they were sent back. So they come in, sign their name, and in the country with nothing. These are our fathers. This is my dad, Danny, and I don't know if you've all met Joseph.
Both. He will be here, so.
They were both drafted in World War II. This is my dad, outstanding general here. You can tell. No, he's only private. He landed on Omaha Beach. If you saw Saving Private Ryan, that was my dad. And Joseph landed in Marseille in France. And my dad spent 5 years in the military fighting landed in England, then went to France and went all the way through Germany. Came back home after the war and bought this right here. This was Manny's Luncheonette. It was a landmark site. This is in Borough Park, Brooklyn. It used to be Manny's. And I started working there when I was about 5. I worked there every day, evenings. I was, by the time I was 10, I was a great short order cook. And you can see right here is Maimonides Hospital. So when I used to deliver here, go into the hospital, surgeons let me help with the OR. This is the days when doctors ruled the roost. Doctors could do anything they wanted to do back then. This is a big nursing home, so everybody would come up the block from the train stations or the buses and walk up the block and go into Maimonides Hospital. And this is the ER right here. So I used to deliver, there's a side door, I used to go into the ER. The doctors would let me suture. By the time I was 15, I had delivered about 30, 40 babies. I had assisted in surgeries. I mean, I was really advanced already, because I was always there. One time I was about 17, and I went in, one of the guys let me help deliver a baby. Came back to my dad's store, working in the grill, and some guy is looking at me and looking at me and looking at me. And my dad goes, "What's the matter? Why are you looking at my son like this?" He goes, "I could swear that guy just delivered my baby." And so I had a good experience both in medicine and in short order cooks. And I helped my dad a lot. Saturday nights we'd put papers together. There would be a crowd of 300-400 people out there waiting for the Sunday news. I saw a lot of people coming here to visit their wives who deliver babies. And I started It's a Boy, It's a Girl cigars. And people wanted to bring gifts to people in the hospital. And I said, "What do you bring?" And they said, "Sour balls." So I had a whole case of sour balls, and they used to sell out every day. So I started my entrepreneurship here. My dad eventually bought all this building right here, all the way to here. and all these stores all around. So I'm proud of my dad. He did this, passed it on to my sister, and she still has it. It's all rented down. So I went to Stony Brook undergrad, then went through medical school and did my internship and residency at NYU. It was quite a good residency. We saw everything. I did everything. By this time, I had been in medicine since I was the age of 5, and here I'm already 25. So 20 years of medicine already. And then I went on to do my fellowship at NYU as well. One of the things I did was I realized that we were treating people differently with different types of tuberculosis. Different groups would come in. There were 3 major groups that came into the hospital with tuberculosis. There was HIV patients, new immigrants, and what we call the Bowery people, basically homeless people who were alcoholics on the street. They would come in with TB, and they came with different types of TB. And the treatment was different for each type. And I saw that I didn't think this was right, so I went down to basically all the lab specimens were kept in the morgues, and I went through every specimen of every patient who ever came through NYU for about 5 years. This is how I spent my nights and weekends. And I said, no, the HIV patients came in with one type, but basically the Bowery patients and the new immigrants from Asia came in with a similar type. So I changed all the treatment of tuberculosis in New York City. I had a landmark paper published in JAMA, 1985, and it changed the way we treated tuberculosis, that basically Bowery and the immigrants were treated with one type of medicine, and the HIV patients were treated with another. This is when HIV just started. HIV basically presented an immunosuppressed patient who couldn't fight off infections, and this was all new, and basically everyone who came in with a new HIV infection got very sick. Now there's antivirals, antiretrovirals, and they could be treated successfully. Back then they weren't able to be. Whoops. Then I went on to do an ICU fellowship at NYU. That's intensive care. It's combined with pulmonary. I was on call 36 hours in a row, every other day. It was pretty brutal, to be honest. You work through the night, and I was in my glory. I loved it, but it just wasn't working out for me. I was already about 27, I had 2 children, and I was making $9,000 a year in Manhattan. I go, what do I do? What's going on? No jobs, there's no internet yet. My wife came to me and said, I don't have money for diapers. I couldn't call Ted. I should have. But I said, what do we do? And this was a pretty low point in my life, I have to say. One of the most promising fellowships in the country, to get into this and then not be able to make ends meet. I couldn't have a car, couldn't have an apartment, basically couldn't even get diapers for my kids. And then I got a call. I got a call from a headhunter that said, we're looking to start an ICU in Florida, in one of the hospitals in Central Florida. So I said to my wife, what do we do? Do we go? Do we stay? All our family was in New York. Everyone we knew. I was a New Yorker. Do we move to Florida? And the answer was, what do you do? Sometimes life gives you decisions. Where do you go? Every day you're making a decision. You made a decision to come to Brooklyn College, where to live, who to go out with, what girl you're going to ask out, what guy you're going to go out with. It's just a series of decisions. And do I stay in the comfort of my family? I had cousins, brothers, sisters, parents. Or do you move and find your own career? Find what's best for you. I went to Florida, and they were offering me 10 times the salary I was making there. A car, a house, and an office. So, really was an easy decision. Florida. Florida was. got out of Brooklyn, got out of New York City, and moved to Florida. Left everybody, but it's only a plane flight away. So it looked like an easy decision, didn't it? So hospital started me in a practice in Florida, and I was hired as an independent contractor. And they gave me all of the equipment, furniture, computers, copiers, and I had no idea how much it would cost to start a business. The startup costs, like you're going to do a restaurant, what are your startup costs? I had no idea. So I saw what, I went to an accountant and had it all written out, and I went to the hospital and said, before I move down, everything you put in that office has to become mine. I can't, after a year, you can't take it back, what am I going to do? So they agreed to it. And whenever you're going to go into a business, you have to negotiate, whether it's a medical practice or any type of business, whether someone's going to hire you, you need to negotiate. And I never thought that they would go for that, but they did. I didn't realize how much value I had to them. I basically probably lack of self-esteem or just not realizing how much I was worth, maybe because of my situation was actually a little desperate. But they gave me an office, they gave me a car, a home, and everything I asked for. I probably could have asked for even more, but I said, let me settle for that. So the office became mine, and I had a feed of patients into my office from the hospital. So then I had to set up an office. I had never done that. I had never hired an employee, what you guys were just talking about, hiring employees. How do you do that? Where do you get them from? This was not what I did. I was not trained in business. I never had an entrepreneurship class. I was trained in medicine. I knew how to treat patients, but I didn't know how to start a practice. How do you get, how do you get the employees? Where do they come from? And then you have the other thing that I didn't know anything about was medical billing. How do you do medical billing? How do you get paid for what you do? You go see a patient in the hospital. They don't pay you. I walk into your restaurant, I give you money, you give me food. But there's a service business and it's third-party billing. What that means is you come to my office, or I see you in the hospital, and you say, bill that guy over there. And you wait for them to send you a check, if they do. And they tell you how much they want to send you. And they may deny, you may have worked for nothing. So this was something very new. How do you do the third-party billing? What happens if they don't have insurance? What happens if the insurance says you didn't pay your premium? All these things, when someone comes into an office, you could check this, but if you're seeing them in the hospital, like they're in an intensive care unit, you can't say, do you have insurance? So you have to do a lot for free. And then when I started my practice, you had to do everything electronically. It used to be paper claims, internet came out, and I know you guys don't believe this, but there was a time when there was no internet. And it's not that long ago. I'm talking about 1990. So it's really, maybe to you, you're probably born after, but it's not a long time ago. So I needed to find somebody who could do this. There's different types of codes. There's an ICD-9, which is a diagnosis code, and a CPT, which is a procedure code, and they have to match. And if you don't send it all perfectly to the insurers, whether it's Medicare or Aetna or Humana or whatever, they send it back, code denied. So, got the billing down. Took me a while, but there's always a delay in cash flow. And I didn't realize how much it costs to run a business. You started your restaurant. How much does it really cost? What you think it is going to be, probably go ahead and double it. Occupational licenses, insurances, taxes, getting equipment, getting things up and running, legal fees, accountants. I just had no idea. When I went to an accountant and said, I'm going to start a medical practice, how much do you think it will cost? And he said, probably your base fee every month will be $20,000. And I looked at it, $20,000 to run an office without me getting paid? He goes, yeah, that's probably a conservative estimate. I was making $10,000 a year. How could $20,000 a month be the cost to run an office? But that's the reality. And so every time you walk in there, the first of the month, your rent is due. You have to pay your staff. If you have supplies or food or whatever you're starting in your business, insurances. So I would walk in the first day and you're down probably $10,000, have a deficit. So you need to make money quickly. You need to have that cash flow, and with third-party billing, that makes it a little difficult. And I needed a business plan. I didn't know what a business plan was, but basically what it really meant to me was how much are things going to cost? What are you going to have to generate each month, and you're going to have a carryover from the previous month? Because if you don't have the money to pay them, whether it's a medical office or a restaurant or whatever business, the last one to get paid is you. So this was the main thing that took me by surprise. After the first year and I was running my office, how much it would cost every month to run a business. It's very hard to make, to not only cover your expenses, but for you to get paid. It took me a little while to figure it out. And then, I was able to pay my office expenses, keep a certain amount in account, and also pay your home expenses. You got to pay for your house, your car, your children. And then do you have to do marketing? Well, I was lucky that I never advertised. The hospital would always send me all of the patients every day. They would send me 20, 25 new patients every day because I was unique to that hospital, and they gave me all of my practice without having to really go out and find patients. So I was probably about 3-4 years into the practice, and I said, well, what's the concept of my business? Where am I going to go with this? Am I going to grow? Is it profitable to grow? How do you hire a new doctor? What's the business model to hire a doctor? Someone comes in, and a doctor's not a cheap thing to get. You're going to pay him $100,000 a year or more. You're going to pay for his malpractice, his health insurance. You're going to pay for him to move down, for his wife to come down and see the practice, see the location. Is this feasible? And so I went to a lawyer, and he said, well, you have to make them a partner right away. You have to have them investing into the business. And I said, well, it's mine. It's my business. Why do I have to make them a partner right away? That doesn't make sense. And I went to lawyers and accountants, and I really felt nobody was able to help me with this. It just didn't seem to work for me. What concept are you going to have if you want to grow your business? It's all on me. He's going to come in, walk in, see patients. Why should I make him my equal? It didn't make sense to me. There's a time I should have called Ted again. You know that show, Just Ask Saul? This is Just Ask Ted, but I didn't. He's my little cousin. How can I do that? So I kind of had to think of it as I went along. I knew that you had to give them an incentive to work. You had to give all of your employees incentive to work. So the business model I came up with was having doctors work on a productivity. And that would give them incentive to work, to come up to work every day, to work hard. And instead of making them a partner or buying in, you give them a base salary, and then for every amount you bring in, you get a percentage of that. So that means they could work independently, and they're going to work hard. They're going to work as hard as they can, because the more that they bring in, the more they'll take home. So that model seemed to work well for me, that not having them buy in, because you don't want a new doctor just getting out of training to come in and have to give you a chunk of their salary. They want to buy a home, they want to buy a car, they have school expenses to pay. You go to NYU Medical School, it's $75,000 a year now. So how are they going to come in and then start to work and buy in? So the productivity model seemed to work for me very, very well. It also worked for all my staff. You want everybody to be a partner in that. And all staff, whether it's the secretary or the nurse or whoever, I put them on a productivity. Practice does well, everybody does better. And I gave bonuses every 3 months. That seemed to be working. Everybody would say, where are we? Everybody was really excited. It created excitement. Where are we? And I always kept a chart in the back room of where we are so they could anticipate their bonus. When you hire an employee, people don't look at everything you pay to them. They look at their salary. I'm making $100,000 a year, and that's all they look at. They don't look at, well, I have to pay taxes on that 100,000 employer. I have to give you health insurance. People don't look at that, the quality of the health insurance, whether I give you a disability plan, whether I give you paid vacation and continuing medical education. They just look at base salary. They don't look at everything that goes in as an employer. So as an employer, you see there's a different salary than what someone looks at when they're working for you. They see 100,000, you see 180,000. It's very different. So did it really pay for me? How many patients would a doctor need to see to make it successful? Could I get the business for new doctors to work? And will they become a partner? This is the hardest decision. How do you frame that contract and how do you get them to work on it? And there's all the things I said with the new doctor: you have salary, moving expenses, insurances, taxes. Also, hiring a new doctor, is it going to cut out from my salary? Will I have to hire more staff? Will I have to get another office? These are all things on growth. Is growth really good? Will it work for you? Well, it did for me. I got up to 7 doctors, and the staff, we eventually got up to about 50 staff. And I was still seeing patients. And at what point does this not become profitable for you? At what point is it too big, and then you need to hire human resources people, marketing people? At what point does it get too big that you need too much space? So that there's a fine line between growth and staying the same and not growing, and where you can fine tune your profit. Medicine is a funny business because when you go to a doctor, I figured out, I once went through the number of steps, and I figured out that there's 400 steps between you finding the doctor, calling the doctor, then answering the phone, making the appointment, telling you about the appointment, you're asking a whole bunch of questions, getting your insurance information, confirming your insurance. Doctor walks into the room, sees you, the nurse comes in, sees you. It's just a number of steps, and it's a very, very inefficient business. So at what point does it stop becoming profitable? And probably at that time, at approximately, I'd say probably about 10 doctors and about 40, 50 staff, we started to go down. Also, medicine started to go down with the advent of the HMO, and we started to get a lot less reimbursement. So medicine became harder, and at what point do you let the business go? You sell. I felt it was time to let it go when I was on top. Before HMOs came in, hospitals started making their own groups. Everyone, when medicine underwent these changes, and it became less profitable for hospitals with HMOs cutting the reimbursement to them, they started hiring their own medical clinics. I felt it was a good time to move on. So I sold. Got out, and someone else has the practice, Lebowitz Medical Group, and I'm no longer working for them. Wrote a book or two, sold a bunch, and I thought I was going to go ahead and be on TV and be like the news correspondent for the local station, but that just wasn't comfortable for me. I'm not really good at that. I don't like looking into a camera and talking. It's just not my thing. I'm much more comfortable in the role of a doctor and treating people, working on a one-on-one basis. So I started another business. I started a laser business, medical lasers like rejuvenation, Botox, basically medical cosmetics. And that started to do really well until the year 2007. What happened in 2007? Economic crash. And I'm from Tampa, and Tampa crashed big time. People were flipping homes, people were making big money, spending big money. The whole mentality changed. And so that business really didn't go on, and I ended up closing it. And not every business will go well. Sometimes this is my advertisement. You can make payments, because people didn't care. People put down their credit card, women for beauty, There was no limit to what they'd spend. And it was great, and it was cash up front. You didn't have to bill insurances. It was nice. It was a little bit overhead intensive because a bottle of Botox is very expensive. The lasers were very expensive. I had to go become board certified in lasers and Botox. But the business really couldn't withstand the change in the economy. So you have to be ready for that. I wasn't. Never thought that the United States would have a medical, economic hit like that. So I ended up closing this, and sometimes businesses work, sometimes they don't. You can't take it personal. In medicine, you kind of do take it personally because of what's the matter with me, they didn't like me, take a little emotional side to it. But that's not how you should think about a business. If it doesn't work, and you learn from it. So my expensive lasers were in a closet, and I ended up selling them for parts. And I closed this. And now I'm one doctor, and I have one staff, and I do work for insurance companies, like for someone's being sued. They send the chart to me, and I review it and send it back. I work with some lawyers. I do what's called independent medical exams. And it's very comfortable, and it's probably as profitable as it was when I had 7 doctors and 50 staff. So, but I'm basically, it's a service business, and the business is basically me. So, final slide, guys. You have to do what you love. If you like owning restaurants, do it. If you hate food, you hate watching people eat, hate people's dirty plates, don't go into that. But if you love if you love it, I always loved medicine. Medicine to me was great. If I could make a great diagnosis or help somebody, use my medical skills, I loved it. Honesty, that goes without saying. And it's not only to people. I always felt that I could level very well with people. Just tell them up front, hey, I don't think you should have that procedure. I would just give my opinion. And also be honest to yourself. Is this what you want to do? Do you want your own business? It's a lot of responsibility when you have your own. Sometimes it's easy working for a big company. Every 2 weeks you go and get a paycheck. I could work for a big clinic. Be one of the doctors, going in at 8, going home at 5, got a paycheck every 2 weeks, and not have to worry about staff, marketing, billing, all this stuff. I didn't have to do that, but that's what I wanted to do. And you have to be true to yourself. Do you want to own your own business? I thought this is very important to be kind to your staff. I see doctors yelling, throwing instruments, being brutal. Guy walks into the room, everybody hunches up, and I just thought that's crazy. Why be mean to people who are working for you? And don't wait 3 months to do a review. Like this, so on that slide where they have the meeting every day, tell people what's expected. Don't wait for 3 months, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. Tell them right away, every day. Hey, this is what I need you to do, this is what I expect from you. I expect you to answer the phone nicely, I expect you to smile to people. Sometimes I see like the staff being mean to people. I go to a doctor and they're mean. Yeah. What's that about? You're sick. They're working there. They're standing in the way of you getting proper medical care. Hey, it's not their fault. Maybe the insurances are tough, or it's the business model is not the most efficient. But you should be kind. There's no reason not to be kind to an employee or to a client, customer, or patient. And make sure you have a business plan. It doesn't have to have the fancy quote on top. My thing is to do this with my life. It's to know what your expenses are going to be, how much you have to bring in, and be realistic. Don't convince yourself that your expenses are going to be less than they really will be. This is very important. If you start your own business, this is called the self-employed IRA. This is how you put money away for yourself. You can deduct it from your taxes. It costs $25 a year. Don't start a 401k, start a SEP IRA. You can put up to $50,000 a year away if you want. Or you can put it into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever you want. You do your own investments. I found, for me, I'm not a finance guy, but for me, this worked really, really well. Owning your own business, there's no federal requirements. Just whatever, if you take 20% of your salary, you have to give 20% to everybody who works for you, which is great. I hope they get a lot, because that'll mean you put a lot away for yourself. Learn to read a stock chart. If you're going to put money in here, learning how to read a chart is really, really simple, and it shouldn't be something that's enigmatic to you. You should learn how to read where a stock is going up and when to buy it, when not to buy it, when to sell it. And write a book if you can. It's always good if you go on TV, author of, you can start any presentation with a book you've read. It makes, gives you credibility in what you say.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation. We have time for a couple of questions. I have a quick question,
Sure.
and you guys can answer.
Where were you when I was having this problem? Where was this class?
I think I was in kindergarten. No, that was bad. So here's the question.
Sure.
Why are we seeing on every corner of Manhattan all these MD urgent care centers like that, like Starbucks? They're on every corner. Why is that happening, and how are they making money if it's so hard to make money?
Urgent cares could bill as this, they could bill separate. Like if you go to a doctor, your family doctor, they could bill one way. And urgent care has a separate billing. They can make a little more money. It's easier. It's
You see that as a trend in medicine?
Yeah, I think it's just an easy way to get in. It's not calling a doctor trying to get an appointment. You're sick, you walk in. It's trying to make the model better for
those
more common, more
Yeah, for the
accommodating.
people that want to be doctors, would you recommend doctor versus dentist today?
It's different. Dentists, the startup costs are intense. You see the chair and the equipment that's around. These guys got to hustle. And,
Right.
the insurances pay them a little bit. And you want to give someone pain. And
Right.
I don't like going to that. I go all the time, but I don't like it.
For sure. Okay, questions?
I was going to ask that question.
You were going to ask whether a doctor or a dentist?
Doctors could bill the insurances. Dentists could do a little bit, but it's usually out of, pocket cost to the dentist.
Right, it's a more cash basis?
Dentists have the highest rate of suicide of any profession in the
Oh,
world.
that's one reason not to go.
That tells you something.
Yeah, go with that. All right, great, guys. Thanks very much, Dr. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Have a good week.
You got my homework?